Hello, my name is Dewana Fields. I am currently a part-time worker at Early County Family Connection, the anchor of Hope House, and Early Cares Coordinator. My background is the Department of Juvenile Justice, where I served 13 years as a juvenile probation officer, where I got to see and experience a lot of situations concerning our children.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about the situations concerning our children that would kind of have them in the care or as affiliated with the Department of Juvenile Justice?
Yes, a lot of kids came through the system, pretty much generational abuse. There are cases where mama was abused, or dad was abused, or siblings had been abused, grandparents. The list just goes on and on. I found out from my experience and research that a lot of kids, it's generational, so to speak. A lot of kids will parent as they were parented, and that just somewhat just set the tone for them to be abusers.
I agree. In my role, I've sat and I've talked with kids. I had a 10-year-old come in with an uncle had touched her. And, as I met with the mom, she was like, oh, that's nothing. He touched me when I was 10, this, that, and the third. And so I met with grandma, mom's mom. She came in as well. And so she was like, yeah, he touched me when I was 10. And I think he touched my sister too. And I'm like, my goodness, are we just going to continue and let uncle touch anyone? Is anyone going to stand up and intercede on this child's behalf or what? But it was as if it was normalized.
Yeah, I think this is just my think here, that particularly in the black community, a lot of things have been swept under the rug, and a lot of families don't want to get uncle in trouble or cause division within the family. A lot of black families were born and raised church, families stick together. And so that can be good, but it's not good, because I think and believe that an individual that has been abused, that affects them throughout their whole life. And so the life is infected. Then when you got kids that are abused, the behavior problems, and that's a lot of times when we would get them through DJJ, the behavior problems, they're failing at school, their social skills aren't the best, so they have problems interacting and having friends. And then when the family is involved, there's a lack of trust. There's families, a lot of black families or black people that are incarcerated now were abused as a child, and some of them are also offenders. I've had a case before where there was an older teenager playing a video game, and little kids want to play the game, and so there were sometimes trade-offs offered that if you do this for me or that for me, you could play the game. So the teenager was experienced this as a child, so they felt like it was okay. There is a lot of child abuse in the community that is not reported, because a lot of times the abusers threaten, and so you have kids that are afraid. So it's a lot of factors. We know now that we have a lot of parents that are, whether it's two-parent or single-parent homes, families now working 2-3 jobs just to make it, and so sometimes they miss those warning signs.
I agree. I've had I don't want to say pleasure, but the experience of meeting with a child who was a series of children. I think it ended up being 4 victims total. All four belonged to the same mom. Mom was living in her home. The alleged offender was her boyfriend, was helping care for the kids while she worked. And the offender was the primary caregiver. So we have her coming in, we're telling her we have 4 victims that have named your boyfriend as their abuser, but she just could not wrap her head around it. And as law enforcement got involved and ultimately arrested the guy, within 30 days she had to move back in with her mom because she could not afford the rent and the utilities where she was living. So when we have conversation on human trafficking, a lot of people say, oh, it's no human trafficking here in Early County. There's nobody riding around in vans snatching kids, making them go and work over here in this factory, or making them make videos and different things. But as we explore the different definitions of human trafficking, when you have a mom who is allowing And when I say allowing, sometimes it's inadvertently, sometimes they do know, but allow an abuser to victimize their children for the rent that's being paid, the utilities that are being paid. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Not exactly, but I'm pretty sure with the home opening that I will experience some cases of trafficking. I'm sure it's talked about, and we know that in the bigger cities for sure, particularly around Super Bowl and bigger events, it is pretty big there. I think a lot of our kids down in the South are talking about it, and some are experiencing, but I think that the population is bigger in the bigger cities.
I agree, especially around the interstate. Can you share with us how the communities can get together to utilize these resources that we have so that we can minimize the effect that trauma has?
Yes, particularly through some of the organizations such as Family Connection, Early Cares, the Patala Center. We're all trying to work on ACEs and hopefully educate the school system so that teachers will be more aware, and hopefully get law enforcement involved and just open it up to the community as a whole. I know sometimes we have trainings and the community is aware, but I think if those of us on these set committees will actually get out and go and knock on doors and talk to people individually, and when I say talk, I mean actually, I don't want to use the word educate, but educate / make them aware of what's going on, because I think a lot of people just don't know, and child abuse is something that you just sit at the table and talk about. So I think that's a start. I think if we got out and actually had conversations with our neighbors or go to different businesses or in the grocery store, just start letting people know what is here in our community, because if we don't take action now by even us getting educated, it's going to get worse.
Okay.
It'll get worse.
And I believe you. There has been conversation I've had with people that, oh no, there's no child abuse here in Early County. These kids are treated fine. You know, they have school, they have this.
Right.
And in a perfect world, that would be the case.
Right.
However, you know, I know Miss Lynn and Miss Laura and law enforcement know that that's just not the reality.
Right.
Miss Lynn spoke of the supervision issues. Parents are working, specifically during this pandemic.
Right.
You know, school kind of went from 2 days to now we're back 4 days,
Right.
but parents are having to work.
Right.
So we saw opportunities for abuse, and we also saw the report numbers plummet.
Right.
Now that kids are back in school, we've seen an increase in the numbers, but it's not to our likings, because we know that the abuse didn't stop. You
Right.
know, the pandemic just kind of slowed it down.
Right.
I was a nervous wreck when the shelter-in-place orders came down, because I was so worried about the children that had to shelter in place with their abusers.
Right.
You know, and I share with parents and try to educate them that I'm not just going to drop my child off with this person I met in the grocery
Right.
store or that person over there. I'm going to drop my child off with somebody I trust.
Right.
That person has my trust, but sometimes, although we trust them, those are not the ones
Right.
that should be watching our children.
Right.
So can you share with us a little bit on conversations parents should have with children centered around, I guess, supervision and things that they observe?
Yeah, one of the things that I must say is just one of the things that I encourage through abstinence, which I go into the schools and we talk about abstinence, is off the bat, I encourage all young people, anybody, to have a trusted adult in their life. It might not be the same trusted adult that mama or daddy says, but have that trusted adult in your life that you can talk to with pretty much anything. And the adults have to understand that if these kids or children or teenagers come to you and feel like I can trust you, then the line has to be there where they can talk to you about anything, but you be upfront and honest with them on all situations and let them know for sure. Now, if it's something that is causing harm to you or somebody, or you're talking about hurting yourself or somebody, that I have to report that. So, but that don't mean that just with everything they tell you. I've had a lot of kids say, well, I thought I had a trusted adult, but they go tell another adult. So you have to make sure that you're being honest with these kids and actually be there for them, show them, because as an adult, we sometimes think that kids don't need anybody to talk to, but kids go through way more than parents and adults think they do. And Another thing I would add to that is conversation piece. Us parents and adults have to remember that we were once teenagers or children, and we did things that we would not want people to know about. And so sometimes some parents give their children this image or vibe that I'm a perfect parent. That's not true. The children that's around me in the home setting already know sometimes we don't know what you're about to say, but I just believe in keeping it real and being honest with children. And I think that builds the rapport. And so I would encourage all parents and adults to just be honest with kids, be patient with them, listen to them. And even if it's something as simple as, at my house, we're going to eat together. And we're not bringing cell phones. And that's an opportunity that even when friends come over, they already know what's going to happen at our house. And if we need to talk about something, that's a time. I have several, you'll be surprised at the number of students, children, kids, parents that either inbox me or text me all the time. And I'm okay with that because I want to be one of those people that they feel comfortable talking to. And I'm always honest with them. You know, I might not know the answer. I might not be giving you what you want. But if I can't or I don't know, I will try to research and find out or connect you to the right resource. And so I just think that if parents would just take a little bit more time and listen to children or nieces, nephews, whatever the case may be, I think some of them would feel a little bit more comfortable sharing, particularly if somebody's hurting them. I had somebody reach out to me maybe last week or week before last, just wanted a little some advice where a kid reached out to them and it was something that they sent to their cell phone. And it was good that this lady paid attention to it because it was somewhat strange, but it kind of led her to think or suspect, which is okay. We'd rather be safe than not safe, that this child was trying to give her a message that they had been abused. So I do believe that children will open up more if us adults, I'm not saying we got to be their friend, but if we're honest with them and if we tell them the truth and if they feel that safety net. Because even us adults want to know that we got at least one adult, at least, that we could talk to. Now, again, in our community and how we grew up, of course, we pray. Of course, we go to church. But I've oftentimes found that when we start to talk about spiritual, in a sense, people are angry with God. Because a lot of times it's like, okay, we were born and raised, we go to church, we pray, we read the Bible, but then, okay, God, why did this happen to me? So we got all kind of doors that are open up. Child abuse in this situation is big, and for those of us that work with it, I know we could talk all day about it, but yet we also get emotional about it. And so I know that's one of the reasons people don't want to talk about it, because of the emotions. But I oftentimes encourage, it starts with self. You know, you got to pull out, you got to let out what's going on the inside in order to be able to be healed. Now, I'm a still believer that it's going to affect you a lifetime, but at least you'll know and you'll have the resources to try to help you overcome those feelings.
I agree. And in our community, as I shared with you prior, what I've experienced with working with families that come in when children have been victimized, we have the referrals ready to go to Aspire or New Horizons or Georgia Pines, and we will have our African American families, oh, that's all right, we'll pray about it. I've had a mom sit down, I'm the counselor in this household, everything comes through me. My children, they want to know about sex, they want to know about drugs, they want to know about anything, they come talk to me, and that is good to have that relationship. However, these resources are available as well. So can you help me to kind of understand what is it that will deter our people from receiving the help that they need?
For one, I think that a lot of African Americans already feel like society judges us, and so I think sometimes, particularly mothers, are very we're nurturers, so we want to feel like my child don't need to talk to anybody else, because sometimes they know children gonna tell it. If they trust you, they gonna talk, they gonna tell it. And so I think sometimes some adults are afraid, particularly mothers, especially if the offender is a sibling of the mother or either one of her other children. Of course, no mom wants to see or know their child or boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse going to prison. And so for me, I'm a believer that the resources are there, and if they are there, at least give it an opportunity, give it a chance to find out, figure out, see if this works for your family. Now, this organization or this resource might not work for your family, but there could be another one. And I think some of it is just, we're protectors. We're protectors of our children. And a lot of times, moms and dads, but particularly moms, I'm speaking from a female, want to feel like I'm protecting my child, I got this. And we have those barriers up because we are afraid of the wrong thing getting out. We're afraid of, a lot of African Americans are afraid of defects. I don't want defects in my business. I don't want defects coming to my house. I don't want defects taking my children. So I think it's those kinds of barriers of afraid, lack of understanding that I might be from this particular organization, but I'm not here to hurt you or take your children, but I have resources that are available that could help you, that could help your family, that could help your child. And so I think as we are more aware of these resources, then we might be more acceptable. But that also can vary too, because even at DJJ, sometimes I could tell parents one thing and I don't know what I'm talking about. They don't want to listen to me. And I must say this, and I'm definitely not saying this to sound no type of way or step on anybody's toes, but if my white coworker would tell them it was okay. So sometimes we don't like to perceive information from certain people, but if you can find the right person to at least get the same information out, they might receive it. I think is just, I really wish I had a better answer for you on that one, because we do pray and all that, as I just said, but I think it's just some inside barriers. I think it's lack of knowledge, it's lack of understanding, and I think it's just, I would just suggest the resources just continue. Okay. Everybody might not receive it, but then who knows, if something happened to my child, I might be able to share what resources I use with somebody else's child. And believe it or not, people listen when we think they're not listening. So even if we share not exactly what happened to us personally, but just share, oh, this organization really helped me, blah, 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 that person might be taking that in without you even knowing it. Sometimes people like to not, accept what we're saying, but they may go back and do their own research. So, okay. I just think if we just still put it out, whether they want to receive it or not, put it out there, and it'll come a point to where they'll take it. I believe. Continue to pray, and I think when we pray and we know about these resources as we get, if it's the right fit, I think God will lead them to it.
Okay.
I think He will.
Well, thank you. I agree. And just in our African American culture, you brought up how we pray to kind of handle things, and in our African American culture, how we pray to get through situations. And I have a grandmother. My grandmother was 86, and I listened at how her way of dealing with things. Oh, you don't go tell this person you're going through things. You don't know. You don't do that. You just take it to the Lord in prayer. And so I do think that a lot of our people, that is our way of dealing with it. No, I'm not going to tell Mr. One. I'm dealing with this issue right here because she may think I'm crazy, or she may think that I'm not a good parent, or or she may judge my parents for different things, not knowing that maybe just a general synopsis of something I went through can help, or help someone else you may know. So I do like the point of just keep providing the resources, keep educating, and something that you mentioned as well as to educate, and I say engage, and not talk at, but talk with. When we have these conversations with parents, and let them know we're not trying to scare you. We're not showing up trying to see whose kids we're going to take or who we're going to report. No, we're just wanting to protect our children that are in the area, in our community. Miss Lynn has shared her experience. Miss Lori has talked about the trauma and how it presents itself with the kids in school. You have your behavior issues and different other issues. But again, we'll know that these kids have had something going on, but nobody wants to get them to the services that they need, which will then have them going to DJJ and any other agency that will help with any criminal behaviors or such. We know that those kids that are victimized have a higher statistic of developing drug abuse, sex abuse, obesity, hypertension, just a number of different health issues. So if we could get the word out now while they're young, maybe we could minimize the effects that the trauma has on them.
Right. I agree. I agree completely. Because if we don't, they may grow up to be offenders and abusers. And we know that a lot of people that are incarcerated are victims of child abuse. So I agree.
I had a law enforcement officer. He told me we were working a case, and he said, we'll either address it now or later. And this was in regards to a child that had been victimized, and he was wanting that child to get their services that they need, and the parents was gung-ho on, no, my child will be okay. I think the child may have been 6 or 7. Oh, they're resilient. She'll forget this happened, this, that, and the third. And so I just remember just being on the tail end of that conversation that the officer had with the mom, and he told her, he was like, you know, you can address it now or you'll address it later. The choice is up to you. And the parent was, what do you mean? He said, you know, we can address it now, meaning let's go ahead and get the child in counseling, get the services that the child needs to minimize the effects, or you can wait until she's 16, 17 years old, having promiscuous behaviors, engaging in criminal activity and different things. And so when he presented to her like that, she was like, yeah, let me go ahead and get the help that she needs now.
Right. So just being honest, putting that information out there is a start. Because, I mean, that's all we can do. You know, just be honest about it. Put it out there. And even if the parents don't want to receive it right now because they upset or they hurt, you know, give it a day or two. And maybe try to go back and reassess the issue or the concerns, but still put the information out there. Someone just shared me the other day, if we got some information, the multiple times that people see it helps. If you got to put brochures at the grocery store, if you got to put it at the library, if you got to put it in the school, just continue to put the information there. Eventually somebody will pick it up, or either somebody in conversation might say, you know what, I believe I saw some information on that at such and such. Put it in places that the laundromat that you think people wouldn't even pay attention to it. But I think the more we put it out there, it'll be received, even if it's not coming directly from us. It may come from somebody else.
Okay. I'll take that down. Alrighty. Well, we thank you guys for watching.
I was thinking,